Welcome, welcome. It is Sew Together Live, and I'm Teresa Coates. I am super excited to be back here with you guys today. It is just about Halloween time, and so we are going to be talking about Halloween stuff today. First, before we do that though, I want to know if you can hear me. We have a little issues with the mics today, and I want to make sure that you can actually hear me okay. So if you can kind of give me a thumbs up or talk louder or whatever it is that needs to happen, I would really appreciate that. So yeah, it's October already. I can't even believe it's October. So we've got Halloween coming at the end of the month, and this is something that is a great, we're good? Okay. This is a great opportunity to do lots of sewing with Cuddle fabrics, and it's always fun. We've done lots of them. So when we were doing Sew Together Tuesday, we did several shows. We did one with little stuffed pumpkins, and then we did a little trick-or-treat bag, and you can find those and lots of other Halloween projects over at the blog, and they'll post that link up in the comments. So there's a whole list. I was checking it out this morning, and it's an amazing list of all sorts of things. I think there's like 3 or 4 different trick-or-treat bags and all sorts of costumes, home decor, all of that sort of stuff is in there. So lots of ideas. Today, we want to do a project that I have wanted to do for a long time and didn't have a reason to do it. So now we're going to do it. Before we get started though, I want to remind you that we will be giving away a prize at the end. So we're going to give away a 2-yard cut of fabric. I think we're doing black Cuddle 3 so that you can make your own Halloween cape, because that's what we're going to do. Black seems to be a pretty universal one for a lot of different characters that they could dress up as. Today I did it out of red, and I'm doing a candy cane one, which is going to be super fun. So share the video. That's what we're doing, right? Share the video, and then you'll be entered to win, or comment. I can't remember. Adriana needs to correct me. And you'll be entered to win, and we'll choose a winner at the end, and then you'll get your fabric. So, yep. Like and share. There we go. I knew it was something. Okay, that's what you need to do to win the 2-yard cut. All right, I think that's all I have to tell you before I actually get started on this project. So, all right, so this is the little cape that I did. I'm just going to see if I can put it up here on the table. Oh, I can do it like this. Okay, so this is the little cape that I did out of red. So this one is just red Cuddle 3 on the inside and the outside. The one I did after this, because I've always wanted to do this idea, is the candy cane or candy corn version. You could do a candy cane version too. You could dress up as Christmas.
Oh.
Okay. All right, so camera down. Let me show you this one. So this one is the candy corn version, which I think is super fun. So this is just a silly little costume that would be really cute for a little toddler especially. But in the blog for it, we have the measurements for the full cape in sizes toddler through adult, and basically what that size is, the rectangle that you'll need to start with. So yeah, this one is the C3, this is orange, this is sunshine, and this is snow. So this is a really stark white. I love the sunshine yellow. I think it's super pretty, and the orange works perfectly for this. So there is my little candy corn. We're gonna make this, this cape, but I'm gonna show you how to do it by starting with the full piece. So if you were doing this with just regular Cuddle 3 and you hadn't created these stripes in it, it would be this size. So let me move my stuff. Okay, so all I did is sewed my strips together, and those strip measurements should be on the blog, but it's pretty easy to do because really the measurements we want for the size of the cape, and then we'll add measurements for the hems, and so we'll have hems on top and bottom. The sides are going to be 1-inch hems, the bottom is a 2-inch hem, and then for the top you can do whatever size you want. So let me show you with this one here. This one I did I believe a 2.5 inch. I'm going to measure it real quick. 2.5 inch hem is what I did on here, so that I could get this little bit of collar, I guess you would call it, around here.
Like
so
a ruffle or a
it's
ruff.
Kind of it's a ruffle. But if you did it longer, that's what I was thinking of, like for a Dracula or something, you could make this a bigger hem up here, add a couple inches, and get a really nice tall collar around here. Because it is thick, because it's the 2 layers of Cuddle and it's ruffled, then it becomes very stiff. As you can see, it's not floppy at all. You could make this, I think, probably at least 1 inch bigger and it would stand up just as well. So could be a fun way to, you know, integrate that into your costume. I think for a Dracula costume, that would be super cute. Okay, so I measured these out so that each one of these will end up at 6.5 inches. That's what I did. We're gonna hope that at the end, it works out the same way. So for this project, we need the piece of fabric that we're gonna use for the cape. Like I said, this one is a pieced one. We're also gonna need a lining fabric. So today I'm gonna use just a quilting cotton that I have. So nothing exciting here. And I'm gonna use that on here. Yes?
Could you add embroidery to the back first?
Oh, we talked about this.
We're skipping ahead.
This is a great opportunity to add some. So let me see. Can we show this one down here? See if it doesn't blow it out too much. So this would be a perfect Superman. Oh, it did blow it out. It would be a super good Superman cape, so that you could put like the symbol here. You could do like Wonder Woman. You could do all sorts of fun things. You could put their initial here. All sorts of fun things. So you could absolutely do any sort of embroidery. Applique would be really cute on here. All sorts of things that you could do with it. Yeah, absolutely. So once you've done all the applique, then you're going to be here with your piece that is the rectangle size that we want. Okay, so I've got this pieced, and then I'm going to use this cotton for the lining. All right. Okay, yes, Hawk?
Could you add stabilizer to make the extra collar height?
Oh, if you wanted to make it like really tall and stiff, you could absolutely. I would totally just add a little bit of stabilizer, and really not even like a thick one or a hard one, but just like even Pellon, the SF-101, would totally add enough stability that you could do like a really nice tall one. With these shorter ones, you don't need it at all. It's thick enough, dense enough that it totally stays fine. I could see if you were going to do one that stuck up like 4 inches, it would start to get heavy and flop a little.
Something like,
give it some stiffness.
Something like soft and stable.
Soft and stable might be a little too much because we have to gather it.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay.
So I think probably just a good, decent medium weight interfacing would work fine. Yeah.
Hey, Kathy, we're live. This isn't a replay.
Hi, Kathy. So we have our pieces, we have our lining fabric. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to mark where our lining fabric's going to go, and these are also our hems. So let's turn this around. Okay, so I've got a piece that is 24 inches, I think by 27 inches is what mine ended up at. So I'm going to go ahead and move my little guy over here so I don't bump him. I'm going to get a ruler so I can mark this. So what I want to do, my side, so this is my side, this is my top, this is my bottom. I will mention that when I did this, I was real careful to get my naps to go the right direction, so make sure you do that. And then I'm going to measure on the side here and draw a line 1 inch up. So one of the things that you'll notice is because Cuddle does its thing, these aren't perfectly straight here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this line, and then I'm going to cut it off so that it's 1 inch across the whole thing. Okay, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. So I'm going to use...
You're basically just like squaring it up.
I'm kind of going to square it up, so I'm going to mark my hemline first and then straighten up the edge, because I know I want it 1 inch. And really what I'm trying to do is, if you can see, I can put my little line from my ruler on my seam, and I can see it's pretty straight. Okay, so I know that this is actually the straight of it, and I'm just going to compare it to the yellow there because it's the shortest one. Make sure that's writing. Yes. Okay. More than once I've done this and then it hasn't written. That's frustrating. So, okay, so this is just a water-soluble marker from Clover. Super easy. So I know that this is where I want to turn it. Oh, actually.
All right, dangerously, I'm going to move the mic closer to you because
it's a little
they can. Yeah. When you go into whisper mode.
Sorry. I go into whisper mode because I'm not quite sure. Am I doing it right? Maybe. Okay, let's give it a shot. Okay, so now I'm just going to straighten up that edge. So I'm just going to kind of lay my ruler on here, line it up. I can line this one up with this seam, make sure it's straight. It's going to be an inch from there where I did it before. Okay. So then I've got that edge straight. So that's easier than trying to straighten it up as a big square. Now I know that this is straight over here, and this will be 1 inch from the edge. So we're going to do the same thing on the other end. Okay. And I can tell that this one is sewn a little bit straighter than that one. That one I got a little funny on. And this one, the white, is the shortest one. So the measurement here doesn't really matter. So if I'm trimming a little bit off and it makes it a little bit shorter, sorry, I can talk louder. And if it makes it a little bit shorter, it's totally fine. Because the way that we're measuring this is we're going to measure it according to this. So we're going to kind of make our own measurements as we go. So I'm going to straighten that up. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this. Get stuff out of my way there. Okay. Oh, this is one of those fun rulers that has the 1/2 inch on one side. I'm going to just swish that around so I can just get 1 inch. Okay, so now I'm going to mark my 1 inch. That's going to again be my hemline. Okay. So now I've got the sides marked. The bottom I want to do 2 inches because I want it to fold up a couple of inches. That added hem at the bottom will give it a little bit of weight too. The Cuddle is heavy enough that it'll hang down, but usually when we're doing a bottom hem, we want to add a little bit extra to give it some weight so that it'll hang nicely. So I'm just going to add a couple, or not add, I'm going to draw a line 2 inches down. And this should be pretty straight because I did just cut it off the fabric. So I'm just going to kind of scratch it so it matches there. I'm going to do my 2 inch line. And finish that up. Okay, so now I've got my bottom hem marked. Then we're going to come around here. And also you'll notice that I'm using the blue marker because it will come off of this, whereas if I use the Sharpie that I love so much, we would be in trouble and it wouldn't really come off. So and it would show through the top. So we are using just the water soluble today. Okay. So now I'm going to draw this one at 3 inches. Okay. All right. So now what I have here, so I have my top, this will come down like this. The sides are going to come in 1 inch, but what I want is my lining to go in the middle first. So that's what I'm going to do. I cut this in hopefully the right size. Let's see. Close enough. Great. Okay, so this one I cut 19.
They can't see the edge of that at all.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The frame is very small.
There we go. Okay, so what will happen is it can fit. So here's my line, and it's totally going to fit in there. So what I want to do is I'm going to be able to fold this up for my bottom hem, fold it down for my top. I'm going to do the side hems first. So we're going to put this in. What I'm going to do before we get started though is I am going to just do a little bit of glue basting in here to get it in place where I want it to. And we're actually going to use the glue stick a few times today because it helps a lot to get this in place, to hold it there. You could use magnets. You could use the spray, totally, but I have a pretty small studio here, so I don't want to use the spray in here, and I will spray it all over everything. So instead I'm using a little 505 glue stick, which is super awesome. I really love it, and it gives you a ton of control. So if you don't want to have a lot of spray or anything like that, this works really well. So what I'm going to do, let's see if I can get this on the board a little bit more so you can see it. Okay, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue along the bottom. Okay, then I'll put my fabric in place, and it holds the cotton super nicely. So what I'm doing is trying to line up the edge of the fabric with the line that I drew. Okay. Beautiful. Now we'll do another edge. Okay, so now I've got the side seam and I've got my little line marked at the 1 inch. I can see right here it kind of wants to come over a little bit, but I think I'll be fine. It's not going to fold in there and cause any issues. So again, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue. Okay, and we'll fold that back in place. We're not asking this to hold it for any extended period of time. So I just need it to hold it so that I don't have to pin it so much. That's really what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to do this side and then we're going to do, we'll sew the side seams or side hems. All right, so same idea here. This side, it actually comes over a decent little amount past my blue line that I drew. So my line is here and then my fabric comes over it a little bit. So I'm just going to take and snip it off because I want it to be a little less rather than a little bit more. It'll be harder to fold it up underneath there if it's too wide. Okay, so there we go. Perfect. And using the cotton with this helps because it'll stick pretty well to this and it won't shift too much because it's so flat. Okay.
Did you iron anything first?
I did not. I mean, I ironed the white to get it, so it wasn't so wrinkly out of my stash, but that was really all.
Got it.
Okay. So now I'm going to I'm going to put glue here. And I'm going to fold this over right on that line. Okay, so here I can't see the line, so I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. But if you want to be really careful, you could take a ruler, make sure there should be about a 1 inch hem because we put the line at 1 inch, so we should be able to turn this over about 1 inch. Whoops. Okay, so now let's take some Wonder Clips, put them on here. So normally I am not really a Wonder Clip to hold it in place kind of girl, but for this one I use the glue. It tends to hold it well enough that if I use the Wonder Clips and the glue stick, it works out pretty darn well. I say that and we're going to see how it works today. You never know. You never know. All right. So I've got that clipped. Then we're just going to go over and I'm going to sew this. And I want to sew this with, I'm going to sew it with a serpentine stitch. So the kind of like wavy S stitch is what I'm going to use because I want it to look okay even if it's not perfect. And if I do a straight stitch down that side, it needs to be super straight to get it to look nice. So if I do this serpentine stitch, it's going to look really nice even if it's not perfectly even or straight. Okay, so this is kind of my favorite way of hemming things or sewing things, top stitching things, that you can actually kind of fake it and you won't be able to tell that you weren't perfect. All right, okay, so now we're going to sew it. Okay, oh, did I change my needle? I didn't, oopsie, sorry, we're going to change my needle real fast. I took my needle out and then didn't get one in, so I needed to change it because this is 9014 stretch needle. So I want to put that in. So it's these needles here. And we always want to use a stretch needle with the Cuddle fabrics. And I find that the 9014 is really good because it's a stronger needle. So if you use like an 8012, it's just a little bit weaker needle. And when you're going through all of those thick layers, it can sometimes break your needle. So a stronger needle is really helpful for that. All right. So now I'm going to come over and sew this edge. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to sew it because I know what my serpentine looks like. So I want on my little foot here, there's a little line on the foot, and I think it's an 1/8 inch off the center. but I'm going to use that as the guide for my raw edge so that when my serpentine comes over, it's going to do a little S and come right off the edge. Okay, so that's what I'm going to look for, and that way it'll hold down the edge nicely. Okay, and I'm going to start at the bottom, go all the way to the top. Oops, I should thread my needle. It'll sew better that way. All right. Needle down. My fancy threading my needle thing. I love it. Okay. Now let's try. Let's see if that'll sew better. Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to take my clips out as I go. Use my little stiletto to keep it. I'm going to move all of my fabric up here because this gets kind of heavy. So I'm just going to move it up so it's not weighing down against me. And that'll let me sew faster and more accurately.
Hey Teresa, what sewing machine are you sewing on?
I am sewing on a Baby Lock Chorus, which I really love for working with Cuddle. And I've got, so we always talk about using a walking foot, and this has got the digital dual feed. So it's a little bit different in that it has like a little belt down here that drags the fabric through. Now I can see right here, I'm starting to get a little bit of a hump. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pull it flat and make it fix itself. Okay, so I'm not going to let it grow past here. When I get here, I'm going to smash that down real good. Keep my stiletto out of the way, and that way it's not going to grow on me. Okay, so you can kind of just keep it in control as you plug along here. So I'm just going to stitch up the side. Get to this other intersection. Looks like it stayed straight just fine. You can kind of hear it clunk over those layers at the hem because we have a lot of layers that it's going through at that point. All right, go to the very top edge.
What stitch length are we at with the serpentine stitch?
So the serpentine that I'm using is at 4.5 wide and 1.6 long. So I would say a 1.8 or a 2 will work better, and I'm going to switch it on the next one because this is the default that it does for sewing with cotton. So I'm going to move it up to 1.8 because that's what I have it on my other machine that I was doing. And it just makes, what that is, that 1.8 or 1.6 is how long these little stitches are. So these can be a little bit longer in Cuddle, and what will happen is it will sew faster, and it's a little bit easier because it doesn't have to take such teeny tiny steps as we go. So I'm going to try it at 1.8. We'll see how it goes, and if I need to switch it to a 2.0 on another seam, we'll do that. All right, so let's go back over, and I'm going to clip the other side hem. Okay. So bring this back. You can see what it looks like. Okay. Very nice. I will say one of the things that I have noticed with working with Cuddle, so this one, when I sewed this, I sewed it going from bottom to top because I put it in like this. Okay. One of the things that I've realized is that if you sew it along with the nap, you'll get a nicer finish. So let me show you that side by side. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that hem, but this way it'll kind of just catch it catches the nap a little bit. So this is when you have to kind of come back in and scritch it out. But if you sew it along with the nap, so from top to bottom, it turns out a lot nicer. So not a huge deal. It's not, you know, the end of the world. But if you're looking to make something look really nice, sewing it with the nap instead of against the nap will really help. All right, so the next side, we'll get to compare them because this one I will sew with the nap. So I'm just gonna make sure everything is straight. Okay. Keeping that even. All right, and then I'm going to glue it again. Oh, I got 2 glue sticks here, so just in case I lose one, I've got the other one. That's great. Okay. All right, we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to flip this over. It should be about 1 inch. I'm just going to clip this as I go. Make it a little easier on myself. Okay, I'm just pressing that over. Like I said, this glue isn't, meant to hold it in place forever. It's just really it's a little bit like basting it, and then it holds it where you want it to until you can stitch it down. So I'm gonna add a couple more little clips in between here. Okay, all right, so let's go back over to the machine and I will sew this edge. All right, so this time we are sewing with the nap. We're going to see if there's any difference with it. All right, so again, I'm going to start so that my little line on my foot, the little 8th line, and a lot of times we use this for top stitching, and we're kind of going to use that. That helps me just get a straight line down the side. Okay, and I'm not back stitching here because I'm going to sew over this again, but you absolutely could just to hold it in place better. And I didn't say it, but obviously you can ask any questions, and Hawk is here to pass them on to me, so feel free to ask questions. So again, we're going to go over this big hump. So this ends up being 1, 2, 3, 4 layers plus the cotton in there. So you'll kind of hear the machine do a little chunk because it has to go over more layers.
And we're still using the serpentine stitch, right? Yep. This machine does a zillion stitches.
Yes, yes. I'm going to do the serpentine stitch for all of the hems. And then when we do the channel, the elastic channel, we'll switch it back to straight. Okay.
How generous do you want to be with the glue stick? Is it a little goes a long way, or?
I have found that with Cuddle, a little doesn't go as far because Cuddle is kind of heavy. So it wants to pull away more. So if I'm using it just with cotton, it tends to stick a little bit better. But with the Cuddle, I will be a little bit more generous with it to kind of hold it in place.
Great question.
Yeah. So when I was basting this down, the lining fabric, that you could have done with the spray base, but the rest of this really should be done also with the glue stick. You just have a lot more control over where it's going. All right, so let's come back over and compare these. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see the difference, but I can see a big difference in how this looks here. Also, you can see, so this is one of the reasons I love a serpentine stitch. If I look at this closely, I can see this got a little narrow here, or a little shorter. My serpentine is nice and big here.
Oh, it sort of slowed down when it was going under the foot, right?
Exactly. So this one I managed to keep it going at a decent pace, but here it got a little bit smaller. What I love about the serpentine is you don't really notice that. So if I would have been doing this with a straight stitch and kind of got a little off and had to come back on, you would notice that. So the serpentine is really, it's a great stitch to use for things where it's going to show and you want it to look nice.
Compare, kind of stepping back for a second, compare using the glue stick and the clips with your previous double pinning technique.
Okay, so it works well on this project. The glue basting works really well on this project because I am just hemming. So I'm gluing the fabric to the hem. If I were doing something where I was trying to sew 2 pieces of Cuddle together, like when I sewed these strips together, I totally did the double pinning here. And then I used the glue based for the bottom. Okay, so I still double pinned this, especially because when you're doing these strips together, you end up sewing the naps in opposite direction because both the naps are going this way. So when you fold this over, the naps are fighting each other, and they will literally like push against each other because they're kind of going, yeah, this way. So they'll kind of push against each other and not work as well. So I wouldn't want to try to glue base that tiny 1/2 inch seam here. I would just rather actually use my pins. I have a lot more accuracy, and I would have to probably pin it otherwise, you know, even if I did try to glue basting. So the glue works really well for something like this where I'm just hemming it and it's not holding 2 pieces of Cuddle, especially right side to right side. Does that make sense?
It absolutely did.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yep. There is a method to my madness, I promise. Okay. So this one is a little bit bigger, so I'm going to make a little bit bigger bits here. Okay. And I'm just going to fold this up. So with this one, I'm going to fold it up, and I'm not going to press it quite so hard yet, because what I want to do is find my little ruler. There it is. And this should be, look at that. It's just about 2 inches.
Oh, you're off the screen a little bit.
There we go. So just about 2 inches, and if I go over here, I want this to be about 2 inches. Okay. So then I'm going to come back over here. And that'll be about 2 inches. Okay. Just because the Cuddle can totally like smile on you. Okay.
Along this the hemline, it can change a little bit if you're not paying
if you're not
attention.
careful. So with this here, because this is going to be Cuddle on Cuddle, it's going to want to try to like do something funny, and I want this corner to stay nice and straight. So I'm going to actually go ahead and stick a pin in here to hold that in position, because that's important. I'm going to do the same thing up on this side, because again, this is an important juncture where I want them to actually stay. Come on. There we go. Okay. Now, this is a perfect time for these jumbo clips, because it will hold down a lot more of it. So I'm going to use those. And you can see it stays pretty well. If you feel like you need to put some, let's see if I can find some pins here. If you feel like you need to put some pins in here, you can. You could totally put them in here, and it'll keep it nice and even while you're sewing. Okay, if you start doing it and you feel like you need to add the pins, go for it. No problem. Okay, so now we're going to hem the bottom. All right, I'm going to trim off my little threads first because I'm really bad at this. There we go. Okay. Okay, so we're going to start up here at the top. This seam, or this hem, is actually needs to be secured. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna put my foot down. I'm gonna go ahead and take this pin out. So I definitely don't want to hit it. That's one of those good clover ones, and it will destroy my needle for sure.
It might win versus the needle. Got it.
It will win over the needle for sure. Okay, so I did a little lock stitch is what I did. If you have a little back stitch, you can do that. You can go forward and do a little back stitch. So with a serpentine stitch, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it actually just will do a lock stitch because it can't go back along the serpentine. So instead, if you kind of come this way, it'll stop and then stitch, and then it'll keep going. Okay, so a lock stitch works really well there. If you want a back stitch, that's what it will do. And so again, doing the same thing, just following it along this edge. Oh, did I change the length? I did. Okay. I want to see if this makes a difference.
So what length are we at now? Sorry.
1.8.
We're up at 1.8.
Yeah. So I did it at 1.8, and it does feel like it's moving a little bit faster, which is good. see it. The glue actually works pretty well to hold it in position. And because it's not fighting against anything, and even when I used the Cuddle on the inside, I did the same thing and it worked out great. So I'm using cotton on the inside now, but you can use both for sure.
Jackie noticed that this is very similar to a self-binding blanket technique, except for the mitered corners, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and the sides are all different sizes. So the hems are all different sizes, so you couldn't do it that way. But it is very much like, yeah, just top stitching down like we do for a self-binding. Which is, honestly, if you haven't made one, you need to. And then you need to make like 10 more, because they are great. All right, so as we get here, I'm just going to make sure and I squish this down to sew over it, because I want this edge to stay where it was. So I'll take the pin out now and get over to that edge. I'm going to do the same thing here and do a little lock stitch. Make sure that I'm staying on the fabric. Like this. Now I wanted to show you something I noticed as I was sewing this, and you might have noticed too. Maybe not. Okay, do you see how I have a little bit of extra nap right there? Like it's cut so evenly, and then I have a little boop, boop, then it's cut. Boop. You have any idea what happened, Hawk?
No.
My rotary cutter has a little blip in it.
Oh.
So that's what happened there.
It cut, so you were cutting from the back, so it cut the back, but it didn't catch all of the nap. So
the nap on the front. Yep.
An inconsistent haircut.
So I'm going to give it a little haircut right now. See if I can do that. Oh, these scissors aren't very sharp at the tip. It's not a very good haircut. Okay. So that is something that can happen, and it's really because I tried to run over a needle, a hand sewing needle with my rotary cutter yesterday, and that is proof that I must replace that blade. Oh, yay, thank you, my Karen K. Buckleys. Hopefully these are nice and sharp down here. Oh, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Oh, sharp scissors, they're so nice. That's great. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and take my pins, the rest of my little pins out here that I held in place. I didn't notice any difference, but I can see that like this pulled just a little bit here. So I'm not going to worry about it. It's no big deal, but the pins might help that to never happen. So, yeah. Okay, now we'll do the top hem. All right, so the top hem, the way that we're going to do this is we're going to sew the top edge down, and then I'm going to create a channel in here for my elastic. So that's what creates this little neckline. All right, is this, we're going to put a little piece of elastic in here. So I need to create this channel that it's going to feed through. I'm going to do a straight stitch here because it's a nicer edge for the elastic. And even if I get a little bit crooked somewhere along the way with all this gathering, you can't tell at all how perfect that stitching is. Okay, it looks a little wonky anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and create this channel. The first one I'm going to sew is the bottom edge. So I want to make sure that this is nice and even, because that's going to be important, because it will create your collar thing up here. So I'm going to put my glue on this side. Okay, the Odif, both the spray and the glue stick, I have found that they don't gum up your needle, but if it does bother your needle, you're just going to have to, you know, replace the needle. It's not a big deal. They're cheap. And this is a great way of getting it to match. So I'm going to lay it down, fold it over, and then I'm just going to measure this. So it should be 3 inches. It's close enough to 3 inches there. Okay, and I'm just going to make sure that it stays that, just like we did with the 2-inch, the whole way down. Okay, so again, 3 inch, 3 inch, 3 inch, and then I will pin this, because again, I want this to stay exactly where it was. And I want this one to stay up there. Oh, that pin. That doesn't work for Cuddle. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to put some pins in here. And that's because my clips don't go far enough. The clips will go, you know, like halfway. And so that doesn't really hold down this edge for me. So I am going to go ahead and put a few pins in here, the parallel to the edge. I don't need to pin as much because the glue will keep it mostly in position. This is not proper pinning position. Pinning backwards toward myself is not helpful. All right, so I'm gonna put a few pins in here just to keep it in position.
You want to know where all your good clover pins went?
Oh, there they are.
Yeah, they were over by the long arm.
There they are.
Somebody
stole my pins.
Somebody stole them.
Clover pins. They're my favorite. Okay. Thank you. I had wondered where they'd gone. I was like, I have a ton of clover pins. How could I have lost them all in the move? I didn't. You took them away. Okay, so again, we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to switch it to a straight stitch, and I'm going to stitch just inside of here. Okay, so I'm going to try to stitch a little more than 1/4 inch away. If you wanted to do a zigzag across this edge, you could, but I'm going to do just a straight stitch. So I'm going to stick that back to a straight stitch, and I'm going to up it to a 3 millimeter length. I'm going to go ahead, do my little lock stitch. Grab my pin, pull it out. All right, so now I'm going to sew just along this edge. So my hem should be 3 inches, but I'm not really going to care about this edge. I'm going to care about this edge and make sure it's catching my Cuddle fabric so that I can create a little channel. And with the flat pins, these are magic pins, and they're pretty flat. They're not as strong as the clover ones, but the flat pins are really good to just be able to sew over. So I don't have to take them out as my foot goes over. And when I mean sew over it, I mean this slides under my foot. The needle never, or the pin never goes under my needle. Okay. Here, I'm going to take this one out. Okay, I'm going to make sure all of that sits down where I want it to. And I can take that pin out, get it to the edge, and I can do a little back stitch here. All right. So now I have caught this. I want to make sure. I got distracted at one moment and wasn't looking perfectly, so I'll make sure it caught. Okay, all caught. That's great. Okay, so now let's go back over to the other camera real quick here. So now what we're doing is we're creating a channel for up across the top that'll create that neckline and sort of your little collar bit. Okay, so what we need is some elastic, and I have 1/2 inch elastic is what I've got, and I've got a couple of different kinds. So this one is actually one for some underwear, and you could see it's very stretchy. It's very stretchy stuff. Okay, this one is an older one that I have in my stash, and this one, I'm going to take this off, and I'll show you this one doesn't have hardly any stretch at all. So it really kind of depends on what you want for this. I spent a little bit of time figuring out the things that would need to be done so that this could be basically child safe. And I feel like having a little bit stretchier here is better, because if it gets caught, it's going to stretch more and rather than choking first. So I'm going to use the thinner, stretchier one. Okay, so that should work totally fine. We're going to put it in there, and I think it will work better for a child. That's really my big my big question there. All right, so I want to measure 10 inches. I think that's going to be it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. What I would suggest is if you're making this, oh shoot, I lost the 10 already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. If you're making this for a little kid, what I would suggest is that you kind of measure around their neck, and this is how it's going to sit. So you want it to not actually come together. So we're not measuring their whole neck. We're just going to measure part of their neck, because when it comes back together, this is how big it'll be. All right.
It's almost like collarbone to collarbone.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Yeah, maybe just a tiny bit more, because this front is going to be open. You don't want your cape to come all the way around here like this. That would not be comfortable. So we're going to give it a little bit of a space in here, and then we'll give it lots of room here with the elastic. All right. So I need to create a channel that will fit this elastic. So it needs to be more than a 1/2 inch. If I sew it a 1/2 inch, it's going to do that thing where your elastic gets all pinched in here. So I want to measure more than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 3/4 inch from my edge, because I moved in just a little bit, and I'm going to mark this. See if I can see it. Yes. Okay, so it's just a little bit. You might not be able to see that very much, but what I want to do is I want to figure out where on my machine am I going to look to make sure I'm stitching there. Okay, so the seam allowance is a little funky. Let me show you what I mean. So if I want my needle to come down here, then I can see here that the side of my foot is going to run right next to this stitching. So that's what I'm looking for, is what can I compare this to so that I don't have to draw a 3/4 line all the way down. So this, I'm going to compare it to the stitching that I did on that first row, and that should be pretty consistent with what I need. Oops, I'm going to back stitch that too, because that's going to get some stress. Okay. Get that pulled up. So I'm just keeping an eye right here. I'm not looking at my needle at all. I'm just looking on this side to make sure it's running by the edge of the foot. And if it's not perfectly straight, it's fine. Keep those edges even as much as I can. Do a little back stitch. All right, so now I've created a little channel for my elastic to go in. All right, so this channel is also backed by the cotton. So it's one side is going to be the lining fabric, and one side is the Cuddle fabric. So we're going to slide our elastic in there. Before we do that, I want to show you how we create the little kind of the ties. So I thought about how to do that, and I thought it might be something that would be really helpful to have like the ties come out, have it connected to elastic, sort of like you would for pajama bottoms, where then you could pull it and tie it. And then I realized it's not as safe for a kid, because if it's tied, it's more of a choking hazard. So I decided to use some Velcro for that, is what I did. So let me show you how I did this. All right, so I've got a piece here. I put my elastic that I want to use over here. Okay, so I have a piece of the fabric that's going to be here. So whatever fabric you're using for the top part where the channel is, that's the color of fabric you'd want to use, just so it kind of mushes in a little bit. And I've cut a 2-inch piece, and I'm going to mark it with my ruler here at 1 1/4 inches. Okay, so it's a 2-inch wide, and then 1 1/4 in. And I cut this, obviously it's about 11.5 inches. And this will kind of depend on how you want it to fit, how long these ties need to be, and how much Velcro. So that's really up to how big around your child's neck is and how tight it needs to be. Okay. All right. So now I've got this line on there. Can you see the line at all?
It's
Looks
kind
like
of, it's a little blown out, but we can get it.
Okay. I don't want to mark it with black because, you know, you'll be able to see it and I won't ever be able to get it out. Okay. So now I'm going to use that and I'm going to fold up this edge to there. So I'm folding up the one edge that I measured from up to the line I marked. Okay. And then I'm going to turn this under and I'm going to clip it. So I'm just folding that along, basically. So here's the fold line and I'm just going to fold that over. So not completely to the other edge, but so that it comes about halfway down. I'm just going to clip this. And this, if it wobbles a little, nobody cares. So it's not perfectly straight. It's fine. Okay. So
the results are in motion.
Right. You're never going to see it anyway. It's totally fine. All right. So then I'm going to go ahead and I would stitch down the center for this. So I already did this. So we're going to do the same thing. Well, I did it and there, here it is. Okay. So then I stitched down the middle of this. All right. And it holds down. Went back to the serpentine. And so it's just stitched right down the middle of this piece. And now it's held together just fine. Okay, so this becomes our necktie. I cut it bigger than I need it to be because then the ends are always not nice and I can chop those off and then we can make them smaller. So that's what I did here. I might have you go get elastic or a Velcro so I can show how to do this part because we are doing fine time-wise. So we stitch this down and then we're going to cut this. And how big you cut it is going to depend on your kid and how loose they want it. I wanted it to kind of fit around shoulders and then have some room in the front. So I cut mine, I think at 5 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 inches, and then I tuck one end over. And I just stitched down my Velcro. Hook and loop tape is what they like to call it. So I just stitched that down all the way around and then folded over the end. It's important to think about because hook and loop tape has a hook part and a loop part. And the hook part, thank you. The hook part is the scratchy part. So this is the uncomfortable part. And the loop part is soft. So when we're putting it on our neck or their neck, we want to have it so that the loop side is going to face toward us. Okay, so that'll be important when we're putting this together. So we're going to have hook on one side, loop on the other. So Hawk brought it and I'll show you how this works. It works, yeah, super easily. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut off my end here. And then I'm going to do this one a little bit shorter. 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. Okay. So now the pieces that are coming in from either side, and these are going to get attached to the elastic. So that's why we're doing these first, is because we're going to sew this on and then feed it through the channel. Okay, so here is one side, here's another. When I put these on, I put the loop side on the back side because that's what will face my body, and then I put the hook part on the nice part because that will face out. So when they go together, it's your outside on both sides. Okay, so when I put them together, it's going to be like that. But for right now, I need a front and a back. Okay, so that's how they're going to work. Then I'm going to cut a piece of Velcro. I'm going to cut it about 2.5 inches. Then what I found is if you cut the one a little bit shorter, you have some play. All right, so this is going to go on the outside. So if I make this one a little bit shorter, I have some room that I can kind of wiggle and use that Velcro in not just the one length. So I'm going to shorten it a little bit. All right, Then I'm going to get my basting tape, which I saw like 12 times this morning. And then now I can't find it. Shoot. Oh, there it is. I knew it had to be around here somewhere. Okay, so this is the double-sided basting tape, and I'm just going to put this on the back of my Velcro. Doesn't matter how. Doesn't matter if it's straight.
Could you use the hook and loop that you get at a big box, like sort of construction store that actually already has the sticky on the back? Would that be okay? Oh, it might get on your needle. It might gum up your needle, huh?
Yeah, I would say that you probably wouldn't sew it down at that point. It would have to stick, and it might not stick super well.
Not to the nap of the Cuddle.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't do that.
Yeah. It was a nice thought, but probably not. Yeah, because I'm sure that stuff is super sticky and would really gum up your needles.
Yep. And at the same time, not sticky enough to be, keeping your cape on.
Permanent adhesive, yes. Okay, so I've got my basting tape. So I stick it on there, I push it down real hard with my fingernail, get it to stick, and then you can kind of bend it up and pull the paper off. All right, now I'm going to put that on here, and I put it about almost a ½ inch from the end and try to center it on these pieces. Okay, so now when these go, this will be my front, this will be the back, these will hook together. They'll hook together just fine. Okay, so let's go sew these on the machine so I can show you how that works. Because it's a little bit of a trick that I did here at the end. All right, what I want to do is I want to sew this down. So I've got gray thread on the top, so you might be able to see it a little bit. I'm going to start stitching down here. I'm going to stitch around down to the bottom, flip this up, stitch across this end, and then back down. Okay, so I just am going to do that so that it looks a little bit nicer at the end. If you wanted to just leave it, you totally could. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, that is a place that using the non-fray aspect of Cuddle would work really well. Okay. I went one step beyond where I wanted to, so then I'm just going to shove that up underneath. Okay. Take a little stitch, and then give it a turn and stitch that down. Okay, and you're sewing through a lot of thickness right there because it's 3 layers of Cuddle over 3 layers of Cuddle over Velcro. So it's a lot. Take your time with that. It might not go over quite as smoothly as mine did, but just take your time with it. It'll work. Okay, and if you're using matching thread, there is no way that you can tell if you mess this up, which is great because it's just all going to hide in the nap. All right, so that's what it's going to look like. You can kind of see here the stitching line along these edges. The hook is in the middle, and then there are some flat, like ribbon sort of edge, and that's what you can stitch those sides on. Oops. But you can absolutely just stitch over them at the end. It's no big deal. Okay. All right, and that's what you're going to do with both of them. So I'm going to use the ones that I pre-made earlier. So we have these guys. So these are the ones that I made. This one is going to go on the back, this one on the front. So I'm going to stick this one in first. It really doesn't matter. I just need to know which way I'm going to put it in. So, was this my 10-inch piece? Measure it this way. Nope. It's going to now be my 10-inch piece. How's that? This is the other elastic, which I can use again. This is what I use. So there's 3 different kinds, and that's actually really good. So this is a no roll elastic. Okay. So it's got a pretty good stretch. That's got a pretty good stretch. This one didn't have a really good stretch. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one because I already have, it was helpful, and put a pin on it. All right, so what I want to do first is I'm going to sew my elastic to my tie end. I'm not sure what I call this piece. Okay. And I want to stitch it down really well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to kind of do a little box here over this end. Nobody's going to see this because it's going to tuck inside of the channel. So this can be as ugly as you need it to be to get it secure. And that's what we really care about more than anything, is it just being secure. Okay. So again, I'm going to stitch that just with a straight stitch. I'm going to kind of do a little box if I can. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, it doesn't matter. I just need it to be really secure so when this thing gets pulled on, it doesn't just rip out. Okay. Try to sew it across here. Okay. So this is like what you do on bag handles. So I'm thinking it probably will work pretty well.
Oh, you like the box plus the X?
Yeah.
What stitch length was that? Was that long still?
It was still long, but it should be fine. Yeah, it was the 3. But I can pull that real good and it's not going anywhere and I can feel it not even budging. Okay. It is not any pretty stitches.
Can you bring it up a little closer? Thank you.
There you go. So you can see, not pretty. It's not beautiful stitching, but we don't really care because we just want it to hold on tight. All right. So now I'm going to put this into the channel of the cape. Okay, so I'm going to move that. All right. So now, oh, there's my 10-inch piece. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to feed this through so that this is outside. So I remember that this is the scratchy part. Okay, I want that to be on the outside away from my neck. That's really the important part, is I want it away from the neck. So I need to feed it through like this. So I just have a big safety pin that I stuck on the end there. And we're going to get that to go through, I hope. There we go.
That looked a little snug.
It's a little snug, and I'm not sure why, because I did this 12 times and it worked out just fine. Well, not 12, but 3. What is it hitting? That's funny. I've totally done this, and I'm like, what is going on there? There we go. All I could think of is there was like maybe glue stuck in there somehow. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to fight this thing for a little bit. Get it going over that end. Where's my stiletto? And we're just going to push it through. We do that thing where you push it, grab it, and we're going to make that come over the end, one way or another. Of course, I used the not soft elastic this time, so it's really nice and hard. Good golly, Miss Molly. I am not sure what to do about that one. Why are they not going through? Sorry, guys.
The struggle is real.
The struggle is real. Like I said, I did this twice already, so I'm not sure why it's giving me hassle this time. So I'm going to push that in a bit.
Jackie, show it who's boss, Teresa.
I am trying, Jackie.
Right.
I am trying.
Put your foot down.
That's right. You were going to do what I say. I'm going to keep my fingers out of the way when I stab my stiletto in here. It's like it's getting stuck on something, and I don't know what it would be getting stuck on. Okay, I'm super confused. Okay. I am going to take some stitches out, and then I will come back in. How come this always happens when we're on the show?
That's great.
It's great, he says. It's great.
You get to see basically as hard as it gets.
Yeah. There we go. I think I got it to come in there a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now I'm just going to have to come back over at the end and stitch that back in place. All right. Phew. We got it. Now we're going to see if we can get it out the other end when I get there. So maybe make your ends a little bit fatter than I made mine, because that didn't work as well as the other 2 times when I made this.
Your channel a little wider.
Yeah, and I'm not, like I said, this is exactly how I did it with the other 2, so I'm not quite sure what happened, but, you know, it's live, that's why.
Okay. And you can see how this gets nice and thick because of the Cuddle. And we're just going to kind of keep working this in. So every once in a while I can kind of drag it. And what I want is for this to come all the way out the other end and then this to get all the way up to here. Okay.
Clover makes a really cute little bodkin.
The bodkin.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Got it. That
Yeah,
might help.
which might work better than a safety pin.
Maybe.
Yeah. I do have one somewhere. Just didn't really think about it. Thanks for thinking forward for me.
Oh yeah, no, that was Renee.
That was Renee. Oh, thank you. Thank
Hi,
you,
Renee.
Renee. I appreciate that very much. Because you're right. That little clover tool is really nice. It's funny because I have a ton of tools. Like I have a couple of bodkins, but I just like there are certain things because I've done them like the old-fashioned way for so long that I forget that there's another way of doing it. That there's a new, modern, easier way of doing that. The thing about the clover bodkin, which he might find, is it's really skinny. So it is very nice. It'll get into little places easily. Where I was using a ginormous safety pin here, which did not actually help me. Oh, you found it. There it is. So that's the bodkin. If I can get this pin out the other side, I'll show you how it would work. I think that's part of my problem is that my pin is so big. There we go.
Did you win?
I sort of won. I mean, it's, you know, it's just poking out right now. I'm gonna hold that real good. Stretch that down. Then I can pull that out a little bit more. There we go. Oh, we made it all the way to the other end, you guys. Ta-da! Ta-da! All right, so now I'm gonna get this to come down here so that all of my elastic can go in. Okay, so we're just gonna kind of fight it along here until it comes right in. So because I ripped that little hole in my stuff, that actually works out really nicely because I'm going to go back over here and stitch this down. So when I'm going to stitch it, I want to stitch it down in place so that the tail of it stays inside of that channel. All right, so let's go stitch that down. We're going to fix my little oops, and we're going to stitch this down in one fell swoop. Okay. I'm gonna do a little back stitch. And I'm gonna try to keep this out of the way. If it catches my elastic here, I don't really care because I don't want the elastic to go anywhere right now. Okay. So now I'm gonna swish this. So we're gonna pretend that stitching was done before. Okay. So now you're gonna put it in your machine and you're just gonna stitch down this edge. So I'm just gonna stitch forward. Grab my stiletto again. I don't like having my fingers that close. Okay, and then I'm going to back stitch this one more time, just so it stays in position. All right, so there we go. Now it's going to be where I want it to be. I'm going to clip a couple of threads here. Okay, so now I have that little tie. So you can see the tie, even though the end of it was really ugly, it's tucked into the channel here so you can't ever see it. So now we need to finish the other end. All right, so let's come back over and I will show you. So this is how this bodkin works. So this one I just shoved a big safety pin onto the end. It is a ginormous safety pin. Okay, that was not my best choice. This is the clover bodkin and it has this little thing. So you lift this up and it opens. Let's see if I can get it so you guys can see that pretty well. Okay, then it opens up this tip and that's what you're going to grab here. So you put it over the end of your elastic, snap it in, and it holds really tight. Then it has this really nice little point that you just drag it through and it works beautifully. So thank you for the reminder that I have this little tool. I totally forgotten about it. But yeah, that works great. You can see that mine has been loved and used. And what I love about this is because it is flexible, you can kind of get it to go around places that would be a little bit harder otherwise. So anyway, this is the clover bodkin. I totally recommend it. All right, so now we're at the other end.
Now that you've seen her do it the hard way.
Yeah, you can do it the easy way. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this is the way my coat or my cape is going to go on, and I want this to be this direction, so I need to sew it on to this direction, this way. Okay, I could sew it onto either side, it doesn't really matter, but I want them to come out this way so that they will actually stitch together. Okay, so let's go sew this one on just like we did the other. I'm just going to give it a good little stitch down here. You know what? You mentioned the stitch length, and I'm going to shorten it here because having a little bit stronger stitch here is important.
So you shortened it to
Just
what?
a 2.5.
Got it.
So kind of a, you know, if I was sewing anything else, sort of normal stitch length.
Jackie, you just mentioned those Cuddle fitted sheets, and it's about to start getting chilly up here in the Pacific Northwest, and we seem to have lost our set in one of the 3 moves. Anyway.
So guess what I'll be making?
Yeah, more Cuddle sheets coming our way.
Yay. Yeah, they are wonderful. Honestly, if you guys haven't tried them yet, I know I fought it for a long time, but they were right. They're lovely. Okay. So again, that one's slightly better. Okay. So we just did a little box thing here just to keep it secure. All right. Then what I'm going to do, see if I can do this here. There we go. I'm just going to kind of pull it until it starts to suck in. So I just keep it there. Come on. This is when you need 12 hands. Pull it just a little bit more. This is definitely where I used the stiletto and it worked really well. So let's see if I can get it to do it again. Okay. Come on, little guy. You can do it. I just want to get that shoved in a little bit.
Only pretend to whisper.
Okay, sorry. No whispering. I'm like, I have to talk to my fabric. All right, let's come over to the other one because I'll have more room to move stuff around there. I can be more aggressive with my stiletto. Shove it in that little thing there.
I'm not nervous. You're nervous.
It's my finger. I'm a little nervous.
I'm nervous for you.
Okay. There we go. Then it just pops in. So at some point it will just kind of pop in. This is wider than this channel. That's the thing, is this is 1 inch wide and this we tried to make about 3/4 inch wide. So it definitely has to get folded in, but I didn't want it to be skinny. So I was willing to do that on all of them. Okay, so now we're going to take our threads off, give it a good shake. Now we're going to, so remember the soft one goes toward the neck, loopy goes out. And the way that I did this, they're going to fit together super nicely. Ta-da. I think it worked. I think I did it. I wish I could pick it up.
You still have to sew that?
Oh, I do have to sew it. Dang it. Oh, I was so ready to be done.
But wait, it was just going to come apart on you.
I know the next time you pull it, that's what will happen. So that's why we're stitching that down, is so it doesn't, next time you pull it, it doesn't actually get sucked back out after you work that hard to get it in. So again, not really caring how perfect that looks. It will totally hide in the nap. So that's all I really care about. And if I were doing this for realsies and not just, if I had a grandchild to give this to, for instance, I would have probably used white because the gray I can see a little bit every once in a while. But the amazing thing about Cuddle is that you really can't see the stitches in there. So like even here, this is gray thread in there and you can't see it at all. So it's pretty lovely. I use gray thread for most everything. Okay, so there we go. Now it's stuck in there, Hawk.
Oh, good.
Okay, that worked. Now can I say ta-da?
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Now it's done. All right, change the camera. Pretty pleased. All right, so there we go. So I'm going to can I try to hold it up? I know it'll kind of blow out, so I'm just going to try to show you really quick what that looks like.
Here,
okay.
give me.
You need to try it on? Let's see what it looks like.
I've been waiting for this all day.
We did this once with the little nappy blanket thing. It was pretty hilarious. No, flat.
Didn't I do it flat?
No, you twisted this one.
Okay, help me out here. I still
I'm
need
a
somebody
mom.
to
Can
help
you
me
tell?
put my costume on.
All right, there we go.
Ta-da.
So if you have an adult in your life who wants to be a candy cane, I'd probably make it a little bigger. You can see it.
Yeah,
It's a
probably.
little small on him, but it's a really great toddler size. But it's exactly the same way for the adult size. So you can see it would totally work. And that collar looked fine. So you could do a collar that would, sticks up a decent amount and it would still actually stick up. I'm not sure that we need stabilizer like we were talking about earlier. So if you want to be extra careful, put a little layer of interfacing in there. But honestly, I feel like because it's so scrunched up, with the elastic, that it really has a lot of body and just stands really nicely. So that is the little candy corn cape. Like I said, you can absolutely make it out of black. You can make it out of red, like we were talking about, like Little Red Riding Hood sort of thing. You could do Batman. What were the other ones we were talking about?
I was going to suggest Arctic Fox if you were going to do like a Game of Thrones thing.
You could do a cape for Game of Thrones and use, like a fabric like the Lux Cuddle Arctic Fox. Absolutely, any of that would work. Oh, now I want to try it out of Lux Cuddle. Oh, I bet it would be beautiful, and you could use Cuddle in the lining. So you can use, for the lining of it, you can use the cotton like I did today. You can use Cuddle, which is really nice. And what we found is the Cuddle will kind of grab onto your clothes a little bit because of the nap. So I like that aspect of it. The cotton will generally kind of grab onto their clothes. If you want it to be like for an adult, especially if you want it to be really nice, you could use the silky satin inside, which would be lovely. Just really, really lovely. The thing to note about that is that it will be really slick. So if you want, so for an adult, I feel like it'd be okay, but you'd need to make sure that it comes forward a little bit and has a little bit of weight in the front and kind of sits on your shoulders. And then this, the satin will be beautiful inside. Beautiful. So I might have more things to try. So exciting. Always new things to try. All right, so do we have a winner for this week yet? And thanks for coming, you guys. This was awesome. I really appreciate you. All right, so Myla Sattler, I think we met her.
Myra.
Yeah, Myra Sattler.
Yep.
Laura Ellen and Helen Powers. Yay, so I think I know 2 out of 3 there. Thanks for being here, you guys. I appreciate it. All right, so we'll be back. Well, we won't be, but somebody will be back for Sew Together Live in November. I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but I'm sure it will be great. You can also make sure you check out the Shannon Fabrics Facebook page. They just got back from Quilt Market and had a really beautiful booth with a bunch of the display items made out of the new quilting Cuddle. I got to make one of my coat patterns and it turned out fabulous. There is a quilt from Billy Veerkamp that is just phenomenal. So make sure you check out those pictures, and they'll show up on the Shannon Fabrics Facebook page pretty soon. I'm heading to Quilt Festival tomorrow, so if you are going to Quilt Festival, find me, say hi. I would love to see you. I'll be there for the next 4 days, I think, teaching a bunch of classes. So I am very much looking forward to that. And then I'm sure I'll be back in the new year to do some more Sew Together Lives with you guys. So until then, right? Okay. Until then, happy sewing.